What's up, homies? How we doing today? This is going to be an interesting video because what this video is about is how to win your argument in regards to climate change. So people all the time are asking me for advice on different things, and one thing that I always see people struggling in is in the field of climate change. Because there's a bunch of jargon on both ends that makes it very hard to kind of understand. And I want you guys to know an easy way to be able to stand your grounds and make an arguable defense with whoever you're talking about, or talking to, excuse me. So, when it comes to climate change, by the way, keep in mind, guys, I'm Captain Planet. I'm a scientist that specializes in climate change and things like that. When it comes to climate change, yes, there are a bunch. I think I got a mosquito bite on my ankle. I keep having the itch. Sorry. I don't redo videos, as you can tell. But when it comes to climate change, we hear extreme this way and extreme this way, and none of them are like the reality of things. So imagine this. Remember when you learned about the dinosaurs? They called that the tropical era. And then when you learned about cavemen, they called that the Ice Age. Well, we know that the Earth is a lot older than just one tropical age and one ice age. It's actually gone through several. So it's like a clock. So the Earth warms up and it cools down. It warms up and it cools down. Warms up and it cools down. People use this defense all the time to prove, see, climate change is completely natural and humans don't have any play in it. Well, studies show that humans have actually sped up climate change by about 900 years, meaning it's 900 years hotter today than what it should be. But we get so caught off guard in all these different arguments about climate change. And you want to know how I handle it as an eco-gangster? When somebody wants to talk to me about climate change and how it's not real, I simply talk to them about what's called ocean acidification. So, my point to all this is, let's say climate change is a 100% complete hoax. Let's give the person arguing to us that. Say, cool, all right, let's say you're right. Then why are corals dying? Start talking to them about ocean acidification. Corals are 550 million years old. So why all of a sudden are they dying now for the first time in these mass coral bleaching events? It's because of us humans. So what I talk about is what's called ocean acidification. So ocean acidification is a chemical process that basically is taking place in our oceans. So chemically, you can either remember some of the fancy words I'm going to use, or you can sum it up however you want. But when CO2 forms over H2O, when carbon dioxide forms over water, a chemical reaction takes place. And what we call this formation of a new chemical is called carbonic acid. So when CO2 forms over H2O, you get carbonic acid. Carbonic acid directly competes with what we call calcium carbonate. This is what the coral skeletons are made out of. It's also the same thing as limestone, calcium carbonate. So my point is that even if climate change is 100% hoax, we are still going to need to do the things that the hippies are saying that we need to do for the earth in order to help save our coral reefs. So coral reefs are home to 25% of the species in the ocean. Scientists project that they will go extinct by the end of 2050. Think about that. That's a third of Earth's carbon. We'll be unlocking a door that we can't close again once we open it. Not only that, but if 25% of the species who live in the ocean die, it's going to completely rock the other 75%. We cannot eat mahi and tuna if mahi and tuna don't have something to eat. It's common sense. So think about it like this, guys. We wouldn't even have to go into the argument of climate change if you know how to think right, outside of that box, but still staying within it. Switch up that conversation on people. Start talking about ocean acidification and give them the whole thing. Okay, if climate change is a hoax, that's fine. Well, what about this? Because that's enough hard data that nobody can argue against that. So it's one of those things that we have to find a homeostasis. I love it. It's got the word homie in it. A homeostasis. So what that means is finding balance. When we humans have caused 900 years of extra global warming, meaning it's 900 years hotter today than it should be, then humans need to also figure out how to reverse their 900 years. The earth is going through a change. It's quite natural. However, we humans are adding to it. Think about red tide, for example, for those of you that live in Florida and experience these red tides. Red tide, a dinoflagellate known as Carina brevis, as we call it, red tide. This algae produces a red pigment, right? Well, we know that this algae is much older than us humans, but now us humans are actually influencing this algae to get worse and worse and worse. Blooms that would last 2 weeks now can last up to a year and a half. It's not natural because plants, for example, are natural. But when we go adding enough miracle grow on them, they start to grow unnaturally, almost like a miracle, right? So think about that is how it's kind of working with climate change too. Climate change is natural, it's already there, but we're speeding it up a little too much. If you guys would like to get into coral bleaching and what that even means, just drop a comment below and I'd love to make that its own separate little vehicle video, and we can talk about the biology of coral and learn what coral actually is before we get into its own problem of what the coral is experiencing. Because coral bleaching, believe it or not, is more like an algae problem that becomes a coral problem. I got a homie, algae, named Zooxanthellae. He's what lives inside of the coral and gives it its color and also gives that coral 90 to 98% of the energy that coral animal is going to need to survive simply by photosynthetically soaking up the sun like a plant. So corals are cool. They're actually like an animal gone plant, gone bacteria, gone rock. I mean, what's cooler than that, right? You're talking about something that's older than dinosaurs. So why have over 50% of coral reefs on planet Earth already died just since the late 80s? We're doing something to our planet, and it's recognizable. When someone wants to argue with you about climate change, screw it. Throw a different bone in there. Get them so confused they don't even want to argue with you. Because the point is, you don't have to defend yourself on climate change if you know how to defend yourself with science. Come back at them with ocean acidification, and they won't have any wiggle room left to argue. You'll simply just win your statement. Remember, when you're trying to talk to someone, don't talk at them. Don't be, no, you're wrong, this is right, I learned it from Captain Planet. I don't talk to you guys that way. I'm always talking with compassion, and I'm talking with you. I'm not talking at you. Even if you're just at home watching this YouTube video on your screen, I'm talking with you. It's a conversation that we're having. Leave a comment below, I'll do my best to comment back on it because I'm talking with you, not at you. So remember, when you're talking with people, to show compassion and talk with them, because you're never going to change anyone by pointing fingers and saying you're wrong. When someone comes up and yells at me and puts me in my place, I automatically draw a line between me and them, and I don't give a shit what side they're on. I'm on the opposite side. That's really how biology and mammals work. So again, if you understand science, then you can defend yourself even better and know that psychological property about us humans. Know that we're defensive as mammals. It's in our DNA to be defensive. Have you ever seen an upset male bison or an upset silverback gorilla? Like, we act pretty crazy. Us male humans aren't any different. This is fur. We are mammals. So remember, speak with compassion and people are more likely to listen to you. It's not about you winning a point, but if you're truly trying to convince your father-in-law or your cousin or this and that to be able to change, back it up with that ocean acidification. Go in and watch some other YouTube videos about it. I highly encourage for me not to be your only teacher. Because believe it or not, I'm not doing this to teach the 10% of the people in the world who actually like science. I make these videos for the 90% of the people who absolutely hate science. It's those people that I'm trying to reach. And once I've got you hooked in, well, then you can get into an even deeper nerd as far as the vocabularies and all that stuff that I don't want any part of. And you can learn more about the subjects that I'm bringing awareness to. So I highly encourage you to guys start researching ocean acidification. Pull up some other YouTube videos. Give it a watch. Start learning this stuff, and then you'll realize you don't have to ask, hey, Captain Planet, how do I win my argument with climate change? I just told you. Ocean acidification. Thanks for tuning in, people. One love.